Shenyang J-11 and its variants, based on the Sukhoi Su-27 flanker, are a family of 4th generation Chinese fighters. Both in real life and in War Thunder, these aircraft aren't always as conventional as many of their peers, but still tell an interesting story and possess some strong capabilities. Join me in this video as we take a dive into this family of fascinating planes. As the 1960s drew to a close, the Soviet Air Force was in a period of transition, with new MiG-23 fighters rolling off the production lines and slowly trickling out to the squadrons of the VVS and the PVO. The MiG-21 had proven itself a valuable workhorse, and the new Soviet interceptor, the MiG-25, was entering service to provide protection against NATO's latest bombers. The air defenses of the Eastern Bloc were more secure than ever. However, a threat loomed over the horizon: America's F-X program, which would go on to produce the F-15. After a lot of panic and several hundred committee meetings in response to this new threat, the Soviet Future Tactical Fighter program resulted in the selection of the Sukhoi T-10 project, which took 7 years to mature to the point of a flying prototype. In the beginning of the end for the Soviet Union, the Sukhoi Su-27 entered service in 1985, a full 15 years since it was first selected for development. Its partner in the FTF program, the Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-29 Fulcrum, had entered service 2 years prior, but it was the Su-27, dubbed Flanker by NATO, that was the primary focus of both the West, the crumbling Soviet state, and international partners, one in particular of great interest to us today. As the Sino-US Peace Pearl project, a plan to upgrade PLAAF J-8s with US avionics and engines, came crashing down in 1989, thus PRC began to search for a replacement to fill the gap now opened in their Air Force's capabilities. Desperate for foreign capital in an economy losing 145 billion USD to their black market, the Soviet Union was happy, or more accurately, desperate, to step in and fill the gap that had been opened by the US's withdrawal. Though initially reluctant to offer the flanker, instead attempting to sell the Chinese on the smaller but less capable MiG-29 Fulcrum, China kept insisting and eventually got what they wanted. As the fires over Kuwaiti oil fields finally burned out after the Gulf War, the PRC and the Soviet Union finally signed the contract for 24 Su-27 SKs in November of 1991. Even as the Warsaw Pact actively crumbled. Initial test flights by Chinese pilots found the Su-27 to be an exceptional aircraft in almost every aspect, though as pilots of J-7 and J-8 regiments converted over to the flanker, their Russian instructors were oft confused by their reticence to deviate from manuals and prescripted formations, relics of tactics 1 or 2 generations prior. With its introduction, the flanker, known as the J-11 Responsive Dragon in Chinese service, easily took the title of the most advanced aircraft in the PLAAF, as the PRC scrambled to push domestic contemporaries out in the wake of the Gulf War. Scarcely a month after the ink had dried, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. However, the nascent Russian Federation was quick to confirm that they would uphold the terms of the contract, acutely aware that foreign capital and Chinese debt forgiveness were crucial for the stability of the struggling Russian economy, which has previously relied heavily on imports from Europe. 2 further contracts in 1995 and 1999 for further aircraft, with a licensed manufacturing agreement in 1996, allowed for Shenyang to domestically manufacture 200 Su-27 SKs with up to 70% domestic parts. This notably included an export ban and lacked a license for the AL-31F engine, which was to be imported from Russia. It did, however, include provisions for maintenance facilities for the J-11, no longer requiring them to be sent back to Russia for refurbishment. These contracts more or less single-handedly kept Sukhoi and its affiliates afloat during the Soviet collapse, and provided China with a stopgap design to bridge the period between the Gulf War and the introduction of domestic designs such as the J-10. In War Thunder, the J-11 is a direct copy of the Soviet Su-27, found at 13.0 in Air Realistic. It is quite a jack of all trades, master of none, when it comes to combat. In long-distance engagements, its radar can struggle, requiring you to fly straight and level to get a good lock, and having quite a slow scan speed. Its capable R-27ER missiles have incredible kinematic performance, offset by the need to keep a radar lock until they reach their target, as they are semi-active homing Fox 1s. This renders them incredibly capable against aircraft that lack active radar homing Fox 3s, but give them a disadvantage against those which have them. Its countermeasure count, while not outstanding, is sufficient, allowing it to comfortably notch and chaff a few missiles should you need to. In closer range engagements, the R-73 is a highly capable infrared homing Fox 2, with thrust vectoring that allows it to pull some crazy high off-boresight shots at point-blank range. It has decent IRCCM, which makes it hard to flare from the rear aspect, although can often be countered by pre-flaring. Another missile in your kit is the R-27ET, which is a Fox 2 variant of the ER, keeping the same kinematics but replacing the Seeker with one with IRCCM, making it good at chasing down planes that try to extend away. With the J-11, you can usually approach AirRB in one of two ways. The first starts you off by flying high and trying to joust other jets using your R-27ERs, as you will beat most other missiles kinematically. This is risky, however, as breaking off too late when you get a Fox 3 launched at you will often spell your doom. You'll often have the most success at this in down tiers, where there are fewer capable Fox 3 platforms. The other approach you can take is flying low and fast, multipathing incoming Fox 3s and letting you get closer to the enemy to employ your weapons. While the R-27ER is capable at long range, it also still excels at closer ranges, allowing you to stab any plane in front of you that leaves the safety of the multipath. In either of these methods, I'd recommend the same loadout of 4 R-73s, 2 R-27ETs, and 4 R-27ERs. At 12.3 in ground RB, I wouldn't ever recommend bringing the J-11. Its kit is completely outclassed by aircraft such as the J-10A, which sits at the same battle rating. It also lacks any guided ordnance, preventing it from being useful in that aspect.
And let me tell you, I've been taken up to the third heaven. I've been jacked into the big plan. I've seen it. I've seen it. I can't even compute all of it. It's so fantastical. You've not seen nothing. You ain't heard nothing. You ain't smelled nothing like this. I don't have words to tell you. But I tell you, anybody tries to get in the way of the incredible plan the big guys got for us has got me pissed, and I'm just begging to stay on the team, man. Just put me in the game, coach. Whatever you say, coach. I know I'm weak. I know I'm pathetic. Man, you're amazing. I'm so lucky you made me. What do I do, Bob? Like a hunting dog, man. Just take me out of the house. Just turn me on them. Just tell me what I got to do. Tell me what. Tell me how I serve you. Tell me what I can do for you right now.
Somewhat emblematic of the Soviet Union in its waning hours, the Su-27 SKs provided to China immediately began to encounter problems. The PLAAF were dissatisfied with the avionics and particularly the radar of the aircraft, which was considered inadequate and obsolete. Though initially highly reluctant to alter the terms of the contract, Sukhoi eventually backed down and the N001 radar was upgraded to the 001V, and shortly after, the VE standard, allowing for greater performance, multi-tracking, and the utilization of the active radar homing R77, known in export as the RVV-AE. The RWR was also upgraded, removing the long-outdated SPO-15LM, a relic originally employed on the MiG-23, for the far superior SP-150L. This far more capable airframe was considered significant enough of a change to be marked as the J-11A, and around 105 airframes were built to this standard, with a handful of J-11s also being upgraded to it. Later versions of this aircraft were even equipped with a missile approach warning system, a MAWS. Whilst none of the J-11s have had combat experience, their performance in combat drills, both at home and abroad, has been less than remarkable. In 2006, a mock engagement between 4 J-11As and 2 J-10As resulted in the complete annihilation of the flankers by a single J-10 after its partner had to withdraw before the exercise due to technical issues. This humiliation highlighted the inadequacy of the Russian system still retained aboard the J-11A and incentivized further pushes for domestic avionics and subsystems as Russian equipment was deemed inadequate. Further highlighting this point, a joint training exercise between Chinese J-11As and Thai Saab J-39 Gripens in 2015 revealed that, whilst the flankers often won out in visual range combat due to their helmet-mounted sights, which the Gripens lacked, the Gripens easily defeated the J-11A in BVR engagements, primarily owing to their superior radars and the increased capabilities of the American AIM-120 AMRAAM over the R-77. In War Thunder, Gaijin has decided that the J-11A's problems in real life were simply not enough, and instead they give you a fascinating challenge for the plane. The SP-150L RWR that you're supposed to have has been stolen by counter-revolutionaries and has been replaced by the old SPO-15. The radar in the nose has had the serial number filed off in an attempt to hide the fact that it is not, in fact, an N001V or VE, but is instead the base model N001, found on the base model J-11. A radar that not only lacks more than one data link channel, but should be physically incapable of firing the R-77s that this aircraft is balanced around. Never fret, for the J-11A has more, which can range in utility from helpful to making your SPO-15 louder and wasting your countermeasures if you forget to turn it off. In Air RB, the J-11A plays much the same as the base model J-11, given for the fact you are basically just a base model J-11, but with an additional missile. Your R-77s work best at mid to close range. I would personally recommend bringing 4 R-73s, 4 R-77s, and 2 R-27ERs. While R-77s aren't the best Fox 3 in any metric, they are still a Fox 3 and they work. The J-11A is 12.7 in ground battles, rendering it completely useless. Much like the J-11, it's outclassed by its contemporaries and even some aircraft at lower BRs. Much like the J-11, it too lacks guided ordnance, making it a pure fighter and an unremarkable one at that. All of this means that not only are most of its contemporaries infinitely more versatile than the J-11A, but if you want to do CAS, you're gonna have to bring a different plane. And now, the J-11B, but first, a word from our sponsor. Have the Russians sold you an outdated aircraft? Are they not allowing you to upgrade it, even though you really want to? Come on down to Shenyang Aircraft Corporation today. New radars, New missiles, new dubiously legal ways to get around contracts. Use promo code
老天保佑，金山银山全路有
to get 10% off your next airframe. Back to the video. By the early 2000s, the international situation had changed somewhat since the initial contract for the J-11s was signed. The Chinese government had changed, with Jiang Zemin replaced by Hu Jintao, under whose leadership China saw consistent and steady economic growth and development. Meanwhile, in Russia, it was steadily apparent that the Soviet Union was dead and buried, and the Russian state was slowly starting to find its footing and exert its power for the first time. It was to this backdrop that the PLAAF saw their window to make a play in the flanker deal. Still dissatisfied with the terms of the initial agreement and frustrated by Russian technological inferiority compared to even the nascent Chinese aviation industry, the PLAAF went ahead with a dubiously legal program to indigenize the J-11. The end result was the first truly modern upgrade to the flanker in the world, briefly bringing it onto parity with its Western contemporaries. The J-11B replaced the Russian AL-31F with the domestic WS-10 engine, arguably the only part of the aircraft negatively affected by the indigenization, at least initially. The WS-10, the original power plant of the J-10, was a troubled design that struggled through its development cycle, only reaching functionality in the early 2000s. The engine suffered reliability problems and had an incredibly short lifespan of around 30 hours compared to the AL-31F's 400-hour refurbishment lifespan. Conversely, the new domestic Type 1493 slotted planar array radar was one of the best radars in its class, similar to the designs found on the FA-18 and earlier versions of the F-15. This offered the J-11 significantly improved performance, allowing for the engagement of up to 8 targets at once at significantly improved ranges. The new avionics also facilitated the employment of domestic weaponry, trading out reliance on Russian-imported R-77s in favor of domestic PL-12s, a highly capable domestic active radar homing missile with performance surpassing the AIM-120B, albeit incompatible with the N001 series radars found on the older J-11s. Domestic avionics also allowed the employment of the PL-8B, a missile developed in secret cooperation with Israel in the 1980s, a time when both countries were under extensive arms embargoes, and, again, incompatible with the original Russian design. The upgraded J-11, designated J-11B internally and known to NATO as the Flanker L, first flew in 2004 and officially entered service in 2007, severing PLAAF reliance on Russia for components to one of their most capable aircraft. By 2009, initial design troubles had been resolved, mainly by the transition from the WS-10 engine to the WS-10A, which offered superior performance and massively increased reliability. This variant of the J-11 marked an important step towards Chinese military self-dependence, and the airframe continues in service to this day with both the PLAAF and the PLAN. In War Thunder, the J-11B flies unlike any other flanker currently in game. Sitting at the same BR of 13.7 as the J-11A, it is a huge improvement, and with the J-11A being folded, the B removes most of the reason to play the A. Compared to the directions the Soviet tree takes the airframe in terms of increased missile count, the J-11B instead opts for significantly better missiles in the form of PL-12s and PL-8Bs. The PL-8Bs have very good gate width IRCCM, allowing them comparable yet superior performance to the French Magic IIs. While they don't have the thrust vectoring wizardry of the R-73, they are instead significantly more useful in the majority of circumstances you'll find yourself in Air RB. Your other missile is the PL-12, which offers comparable performance all around to the AMRAAM, being a jack of all trades in terms of ARH missiles. The PL-12 greatly benefits from your new radar set, the Type 1493, which unlike the previous J-11s is a modern radar set offering similar performance to American radars. You've now also got a modern RWR that pairs well with the MOR that you still retain. Another big step up on the J-11B are the engines. These WS-10As are the best currently mounted on any flanker in-game, allowing you to approach the battlefield blazingly fast and keep a lot of energy in any circumstance. When you're taking the J-11B into Air RB, I'd tend to recommend staying low. This is primarily because of your unchanged countermeasure count. By multipathing, you can essentially remain immune to Fox 3s on most maps. Your PL-8Bs are very good at dealing with targets that are low, and if they're close enough, then their flares mean very little. For targets that are high up, I tend to use HMD mode to lock them and fire at them from low, with the PL-12 stabbing them in the belly. At the start of the match, even though you have a lot of speed, I wouldn't recommend being the first one in and blazing through the enemy team, but instead staying around the midline of your team. You'll put yourself in a good position to take advantage of targets stuck in any furballs, whilst not making yourself vulnerable on the flanks. Whilst you are a capable flanker, you are, at the end of the day, still a flanker. Pretty much any other airframe you face can beat you in a dogfight, especially Typhoons, Rafales, and J-10s. In an emergency, you can use your Cobra button to get a missile lock and hope for the best, but PL-8Bs are not R-73s, so don't expect them to hit the same kind of over-the-shoulder shots that the 73s could. Unlike the previous flankers, the J-11B actually fits rather well into ground RB for China. Having access to laser-guided bombs is nice, but the stars of the show are the 4 KH-29TEs, which can put the J-11B in a better position than even the JH-7A, which can only carry 2. Their fire-and-forget nature allows you to dump them either on unsuspecting tanks or on SPAA who are in many cases unable to smoke to make them lose their lock. If you do want to bring guided bombs, the Chinese GB250s are a great choice, and the KADC-03A targeting pod is brilliant. The J-11B's performance as a fighter also gives you the ability to focus on clearing the skies for your team, or even both as a genuinely capable multi-role. For the basic J-11, you'll want to start off with researching flares before going for the R-73, the G-Suit, and the R-27T1. Next, go for the new boosters, the R-27R1, cover, and wings repair. Once you have those, grab the R-27ET1 and the R-27ER1 before going for engine, compressor, airframe, and fuselage repair. Because the J-11 has 2 engines, EFS can, very rarely, be useful, so grab that now. Next, go for the upgrades on the 30mm cannon before finishing off with ground ordnance. For the J-11A, start with the MOR and then go for the R-27Ts. Next, grab the G-Suit, new boosters, the R-73E, and cover. Then, grab the R-27Rs and the RVVAE before grabbing engine, compressor, wings repair, airframe, fuselage repair, and then EFS. Finally, grab the cannon upgrades before going for the ground ordnance. For the J-11B, start with MOR before grabbing the G-Suit. Go back and grab the PL-8s before going for new boosters and airframe. Then, grab the PL-12s, cover, wings repair, and engine before going back and working on compressor and fuselage repair. If you don't play ground RB, you can skip these next few until the end, but if you do, I'd highly recommend grabbing the KH-29TEs and the KADC-03A targeting pod, followed by the GB250s and GB500s. Circle back and grab EFS and the upgrades to the 30mm before finishing off and spading it with the glide bombs. And that's it for the J-11 series currently in War Thunder. While there are a few later upgrades and further developments, such as the J-11BG as well as J-15s and 16s, we don't currently have them in game and this video is long enough already. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed researching, recording, and editing it. If you did, then liking and subscribing would go a very long way. If you'd like to vote on the next video's topic, there'll be a poll on my Discord, link in the description. And that's all from me. Fly safe.